The Fortnite World Cup was a big deal. The biggest competitive tournament in Fortnite history, with over $30 million in prize pool money, and the finals played in person at New York City. The World Cup was meant to be a yearly deal, but the Chrome consumed life in 2020 and it's now been 5 years without its return. So let's turn back the clock to the first World Cup solo finals, to Bugha. Bugha is the man himself who took home the solo win, earned $3 million, which after taxes probably came out to about 25 quid, and even got an in-game trophy at Lucky Landing. Bugha would go on to get his own dedicated video in the Fortnite YouTube channel series Stories from the Battle Bus, and 2 years on in Chapter 2 Season 7, received his very own Icon series set and hosted the Bugha's late game LTM. This kid is a big deal. And yet, before this event, no one even knew who he was. He wasn't a veteran to the scene, he hadn't won any major competitions before this one, but his skill? Unquestionable. The sun shines down on the island of Athena. The neon blimps soar through the sky as the battle bus blasts overhead, with 100 people jumping out the back door and skydiving towards the landscape below. One of these people is Kyle, or Bugha, a 16-year-old from the United States. His drop spot is Lucky Landing, a long-standing, familiar, and most importantly, reliable point of interest. But he isn't alone. Player Snazy has also come for the landing, and his loot was indeed lucky, picking up a shiny golden combat shotgun compared to Bugha's common drum shotgun. But after a brief confrontation, Snazy backs off, and Bugha is free to leave Lucky Landing. A simple fact of Lucky Landing is that it's very far out from the center of the map. So without that early confrontation being resolved, if Bugha wants to get his elim points up, he's gonna have to play aggressively. Thankfully, earlier he found a heavy sniper rifle, and if there's one thing about Bugha, he's a god with the heavy sniper. And so, in the center of the chaos unfolding in the fields of Dusty Divot, Bugha hits this snipe. This is the turning point for Game 1, and without even taking the loot from the player he just eliminated, he does it again. But despite those elims, Bugha is sitting on a measly 300 materials, with not a great loadout. But then, someone else dies. An entirely unrelated fight, but just close enough to upgrade his loot and gift him a combat shotgun. The final circle was closing around Loot Lake, and despite the confidence boost, Bugha was still in major danger. He has 200 metal and didn't pull the zone, so he throws down a single shockwave grenade and launches into the action. He breaches a box with the sniper, narrowly dodges a trap and secures his third elimination. The ultimate risk reward paid off. The heavy sniper has been a loyal companion thus far, but in Fortnite, you only get 5 inventory slots, so it was discarded in favor of 4 shadow bombs. Using a shockwave, he drops into the next zone, landing on the low ground, but using just a green AR, he secures his next elim, before blasting off to the other side of the zone. Despite the intense situation of a chaotic final circle, his placement on the line, and millions in attendance, he keeps his cool, he keeps his confidence, and he focuses on survival. Whilst other players are racking up eliminations, Bugha knows that in the World Cup, it's all about placement points. The circle has now become absolutely tiny, and yet there are 20 people remaining. So, using one of those shadow bombs from earlier, he sneaks into the zone and one-shots the first person he sees, following that up by taking out clicks on the low ground. Using his final shadow bomb, he catches another player off guard before boxing up. His box is breached, but he comes out on top, taking the siphon and entering a 1 vs 1 with just 100 materials. Without healing items or materials, he uses his shockwave to retake the ultimate high ground, and with the storm to his back, he takes the winning shot straight into the box. Game 1 is won, and Bugha already has a significant point lead over the other players. But Game 1 is just that. Game 1. Game 2 kicks off with a relatively slow start, but in a scuffle over a supply drop, Bugha is knocked off with a 1 pump, taking 90th place, quite the drop from first. Game 2 continues on and brings rise to Bugha's biggest World Cup competitive, King. Much like Bugha, King doesn't let his nerves get the better of him and places well with high eliminations, ending the second game just 1 point behind Bugha. Luckily for Bugha, the King Game 3 didn't start off too well. In fact, he came 100th place, dead last. Bugha, on the other hand, is taking the chance to bounce back. He only gets a couple of limbs before being taken out, but he does make it to the top 10, widening that gap between first and second. Skip straight to the end of Game 4 to Bugha on the ultimate low ground with no materials. As the storm consumes him, another player emerges and he flicks them out, getting a resupply on mats. He just makes it into the zone, burning through all his mats to evade players as much as possible and keep out of the storm. He sneaks a quick third-party elim, getting huge health from Siphon, giving him the confidence he needs to drop into a box for a second elim. But right as he leaves the storm, he's taken down to just 5 health, and while trying to scramble into zone, he is taken out, landing in 3rd place. The winner of Game 4 is Sam, who is now climbing the leaderboard and could threaten Bugha's position at the top. This is no longer about climbing the ranks, this is about staying at the top and staying ahead of competitors like King and Sam. Heading into the penultimate game, Bugha once again drops Lucky Landing, which once again hasn't been very lucky at all. But all Bugha needs is to hit some sick dance moves and any opponents fearfully scamper away. Bugha once again enters the endgame with limited materials and working class loot, but with a quick double elim, he suddenly got 2 scars. His ability to make miracles happen in these final circles is undoubtable, and it shows that you don't need to drop somewhere like Tilted Towers to have a good game. But when he's taken by surprise, it just isn't enough to survive. But with a top 5 finish, the placement points boost him way above anybody else, with nearly 50 points, compared to 2nd place down at 32. Game 6. The final match of the Fortnite World Cup solo. The world is watching, and all of their eyes are rested firmly on Bugha. And so are the other players. Lucky Landing is long known to be Bugha's drop spot, and several other people are following closely behind as he glides in to try and get that early game elim. But then, he spots something, way off in the distant desert dunes. A sign from the epic gods. A supply llama. In the very last game of the World Cup, Bugha changed his drop spot to somewhere totally new, the Truckin' Oasis, before rotating up to the llama and looting it for its mats and ammo. Bugha plays carefully, using the materials kindly provided by that shining piñata. He knows that in order to secure the win, he will have to place highly. Unlike his previous games, Game 6, Bugha carefully sticks in the middle of the safe zone, so wherever it pulls, he'll have the home field advantage. Then, when Sam is taken out in the late game, it's already over. But the game isn't won yet. Bugha is playing confidently. He's already won, might as well go out in style. He burns through all his mats, and with nothing left, he makes his final play. He comes 5th, and it doesn't even matter. He didn't need to win, he just needed to not lose. He may not have taken home the victory royale in that final game, but he got the bigger win. Your Fortnite World Champion! With near double the points of anyone else in the finals, Bugha is crowned the winner of the Fortnite World Cup 2019, and Fortnite history is made. And that is the story of how a 16-year-old kid with no real name for himself beat out some of the biggest names in the competitive Fortnite scene to become the champion of solo Fortnite. A story of the underdog who rose through the ranks by not letting his nerves get the best of him, and undoubtedly an inspiring story for Fortnite competitive fans all across the globe. I mean, I could totally beat him in a 1v1 there. I don't know what you mean.